Have you found yourself recently watching crypto YouTube only to find that you're very unsatisfied with these influencers telling you a research method or guide that's either too basic, too broad, or just doesn't simply work? Well, I understand how you feel. I was once in that position, scrolling through crypto YouTube only to find they keep repeating themselves or copying each other and nothing actually works. Well, in this video, I'm going to give you guys a complete breakdown on how to actually transform your portfolio, how to actually make a big time wealth in the 2024 and 2025 crypto bull run. But importantly, what I'm going to share with you today isn't going to be something focused entirely on an expert or intermediate. Anyone can apply this. I'm talking someone that's just entered the market, my mom or my dad, for example, that knows nothing about crypto. Of course, any prior experience in finance or crypto will help you, but these are the things that are very easily digestible that you can go ahead and apply with actual results. And how do I know this? Well, this has taken me, all the content in this video, 4 years with over 7,000 hours worth of research to finally pinpoint and nail down. So with that being said, make sure you pay attention. I've left chapters down below so you can all skip ahead if you do decide to come back to this video at any point. But remember, guys, if you do want to invest in your crypto journey, to make sure you subscribe to the channel. Got daily content over here. We're focused on making this bull run the most profitable for everyone. The video will be broken up into 5 distinct chapters. Number 1 is what actually makes a crypto bull run happen. Why does it pump? Number 2 is disproving some fallacies behind research and what other people might go ahead and tell you as important to look at, and also what you have to do instead. Number 3 is Pumpamentals, which is all based around degen behavior. This is going to be the primary aspect of the video and the most important thing you have to understand. Number 4 is going into other metrics that might actually help you that are important, like charts and statistics. And lastly is how to actually exit a bull run, or how to exit your crypto positions. And with all that being said, I've got no time limit for this video. I haven't soft capped it at around 20 minutes or half an hour. This might be 45 minutes. This might even be 3 hours for all I bloody know. I'm just going to talk you through the steps as simply and coherently as possible without trying to rush through it. Let's begin. So of course, first of all, I have to do my shameless plug. If you at all find any of this information useful, or you want to dive in deeper, again, I've spent about 3 hours making the most concise course possible on all of these things, but obviously a lot more in depth. And that's all going to be found in my courses here. Link will be down below. Supercharge Your Research is the one that you want to click on. It's $149 US, and you get everything for life. And of course, I'm going to continue to even add to this course itself. So everything's all included forever. I want to begin today's video by asking you a quick question. What will make crypto pump in the bull run? Now, this isn't a trick question. I want you to genuinely listen to this and give me an answer. Even say it out loud if you need to. A, is it the quality of the project, lots of developers, strong metrics, and a great team? Or is it B, just sounds good to a degen? By the way, a degen, of course, is just someone who is dumb money, buys high, sells low, does silly things, very emotional investor. Ask yourself, what is it? Well, actually, the answer was B, all right? Degens. Crypto pumps. Crypto completely moves from B, at least right now. And that's going to be the premise behind Pumpamentals, step 3. So let's get into it. Degens are who we make our money from. It's as simple as that, guys. They're dumb money. They're late starters. This is why, Bitcoin and the market peaks, probably late 2025 and did late 2021, because people are dumb money and they throw their money in when projects are obviously well and truly over their limit. They're also emotional buyers. They buy because of FOMO, or they sell because of fear. Everything is reactionary. They're always basing things on the cause, never the actual effect, all right? And they're also influencer reliant. Now, you might be a degen. I've got many, many friends that know they're degens. And I'd probably say the last 12 or 24 months, called myself a degen as well, because you base things on this. And that's okay. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they're people that don't know how crypto actually works. That's really what it boils down to. And these are the people, and as bad as this might sound, it's just how markets work. For you to sell, someone has to buy. Otherwise, you can't sell. These are almost the people you're essentially preying on. These are the antelopes and we're the lions, to say it in the nicest way possible, okay? So let me now break this down for you all. And on this chart here, okay, this is just a very brief outlook of what the markets have been like over the last few cycles. And back in 2018, so this was 2 cycles ago, we had 100% retail speculation. Now, in this case, when I refer to retail or degens, they're almost interchangeable. I am technically retail, but I wouldn't call myself a degen, okay? But we're going to use these two terms interchangeably because most retail are degens. It was a degen heavy market back then. The whole entire pump back over here, the top of the bull run, was all created from pure degen behavior. Now, the last cycle, we had about 5% enterprise, maybe even a lot less than that, maybe closer to 1%, institutional, national demand, actual utility and use case from real Web 2, real world businesses. We still majority, if not, you could probably even argue, had very close to still 100% retail involvement. No institution right now are buying NFTs. All that sort of thing goes into play. But this time around, I would probably comfortably say we're going to have about 25% enterprise demand because a lot of these new projects, and even old projects specifically, are really making strides in the real world. And so when you think about it, this is really going to be a bit of a shifting point, right? We're not going to have as crazy blow-off top moments like we saw back in 2018, maybe even to some degree 2021. It's still definitely going to have its tops like this, that we're not going to have like pretty much a 2018 ever again, where it just literally went straight up like this and came straight back down again. So that's why we'll likely have a similar situation play out to back here in 2021, maybe even softer, tops and softer lows, if you will. Who really knows for sure? Again, I'm just speculating with about 20% enterprise adoption or big money adoption. But again, this always plays back into who we're focusing on. It's not 50-50. It's not 60% enterprise, 40% retail. It is still majority degens running the market. And instantly, what does that tell you? One of the things I always say is to make money from the degen, to make money from the market, you have to be one step ahead of the degen. And that is where we come to play into Pumpamentals. Now, at that point made, all we're really trying to do here is psychologically be one step ahead of these people. And we know they pretty much base their investments on nothing but emotions, right? Again, they always buy from the cause, not the effect. AKA, if there's an announcement or a news, they don't buy before it. They don't buy the effect of the pump or the drop. They buy it because of that. They buy the dip, or they buy the pump rather, and they sell the dip, okay? It's always the cause, never the effect. And so in saying that as well, I want to jump into some fallacies that we have seen here amongst many crypto YouTubers and what they kind of go ahead, not just YouTubers. I don't want to really crap on these guys too much because a lot of them just mean well and they are entertainers first. But what they will tell you and what others in the space will propagate, and I see it all over TikTok and YouTube Shorts, is research this metric and you got to use this chart to figure out this. And if this happens, like, yes, some of these charts are fantastic by themselves, but they're pretty well useless. Most of them are useless. Now, I don't think they're going to be useless post this bull run when that sort of shift in the retail money moves down and we see more enterprise demand come in. I think they'll play more into effect then. But for this bull run, again, we have to stop thinking 7, 12, 20 years in the future. We have to think the next 2 years for everything we do in this space. And so most of these charts are pretty well useless. Again, the reason why I have useless is because there are still very good ones, which I'll touch on in a minute. There's also a kind of misconception that you have to have a lot of crypto knowledge, right? And this was something I got stuck on myself. I was someone who would dive into things like what you can see on your screen, Merkle trees, SMPC, just like diving into the maths. And I kind of caught myself out because I was buying projects literally just based on this cool tech and idea. But in reality, it's not built on that. Again, what do we just kind of identify? It's built on dumb money. Okay, and that's simply what it is for this bull run. You don't have to know all this. And so this is what you have to kind of do instead at a very zoomed out point. And again, we're going to go into all of this today. So number one, follow Pumpamentals. This is pretty much, Pumpamentals means you're buying the projects based on their, reason to pump, based on their ability to pump hard. Pump fundamentals, that's pretty much the word broken down there. You also do want to monitor a few charts. So I just, a minute ago said to you, don't worry about all of these. Again, most of them are bad. A lot of them are quite good. So we will point the ones that are needed out. Minimum of 5 to 10 minutes of what I call news research per project per day. This will also help you keep a sort of cap on the amount of projects you buy. So many times I see people on these one-on-one consults telling me, Kyle, I've got 30 altcoins, I've got 45 altcoins, what do I do? And I'm just like, well, you're telling me this because you can't handle it. You can't handle all of these altcoins because, again, if you dedicate just 5 minutes or 10 minutes even, which isn't much time at all, to research each project per day, that's going to be like 300 minutes for 30 altcoins. That's like, 4 or 5 or 6 hours? That's incredible. Most of us can't do that, even me, which is doing this full time. So bring it in, hone it in. There is ways that you can make this a seamless process by following the right people on Twitter. They do the research for you, which, by the way, go down below, give me a follow. I'm definitely one of those people. But again, for the newbie person, the reason why this is so important is because of a project like number 30, for example, pumps, and you're researching project 1 to 10, and you haven't heard the news on the day that that project pumped and hit some of your levels, and you manually couldn't go and sell, you might have missed the only opportunity you had to exit. Maybe it's a meme coin. Maybe it's a project that has that sort of sharp spike and sharp point down, right? You've missed it. So it's very important you do this. People often overlook it as a fundamental. And lastly, be somewhat interested in the project or niche you are buying. Again, highly underrated. You must somewhat know a little bit about the project you're buying, all that general industry. I don't dabble too much in gaming projects. I used to be a gamer, but I just don't have an interest in that. I naturally want to buy what I gravitate towards because I know the industry standards. I know what other projects are roughly speaking doing, and you don't really know that all too much if you're just buying something an influencer told you to that you have no intrinsic interest in. So let's talk about what you will need to be interested in, and that is Pumpamentals. Again, this is something I first heard as a phrase, Pumpamentals. I think Jerry Banfield first said this many years ago, and I laughed. I laughed when he said this because I was like, there's no way I have to focus on this stupid crypto buzzword when I have to look into all this different stuff and learn about the tech, and this is why it's important, and why is this project better than this project on a fundamental technical level. And while it's going to be important, I believe, for the next cycle and every subsequent cycle from then, Jerry and others who were screaming this for 10 years now were absolutely correct, at least until 2025. And Pumpamentals, again, basically means pump fundamentals. Can a project fundamentally pump is the best way I can describe it. Now, this is how I've broken it down, because Pumpamentals can do anything. A lot of influencers will tell you, or friends and family will say, hey, buy based on Pumpamentals, but their Pumpamentals research might be something crazy and unrelated to what actually might make a project pump. In this case, Pumpamentals is narrative, meme, popularity, tokenomics, and team. The two most important is narrative and meme. You can forget about popularity, tokenomics, and the team and just focus on these two, and you will almost, I'd probably say, have a 70% chance of being fine, okay? These remaining three either help prove it's a good project or put it in the bad bin, make you want to throw it away, okay? And how this kind of looks on a chart here is, and again, I'm going to go into each of these 5 things individually after this, but you can relate back to this part of the video in a second here if you need to. This is Cardano ADA's chart in the blue line, and it's overlaid with Bitcoins in this orangey color behind it. And how it works is narrative is essentially where all the money flows into at a given time into a whole bunch of different projects. And that almost always, I think probably 95% of the time I've found, will result in the all-time high of the project. Again, Cardano is in blue. The meme is what's called the velocity. The meme actually makes the project more appealing to people. Therefore, and as we'll see, this might sound a bit confusing to you already, when people want to buy in that general narrative, okay, for the projects, let's just say it's oracles, for example, and you've got the addition of Chainlink or Pith or Teller or a whole bunch of different projects, the meme is what separates, let's just say, Pith from all those other examples. Why do people want to buy that? What's so unique and different about it? And the reason it helps with the velocity is because if there is anything that triggers an interest in the project, which is actually part of the popularity or the narrative as well, it's going to help push the project up. So popularity simply means, why can a project be popular at a given time, right? In high school, for example, you might have been the popular person because of something you did or because people know you for doing something. Same thing with the projects. It's essentially high school for all these guys. and there might be an announcement or roadmap event. There might be a token, a listing on a tier 1 exchange, for example, something that puts the projects in the eyes of the whole school, aka all the degenerates, right? What's going to make people want to buy? And that is popularity. Again, we're going to touch on these in much more depth in a second. Tokenomics is pretty self-explanatory. It's breaking down token economics. And this actually all plays back into the meme as well, because if the tokenomics are great, it's going to help make people want to buy the token more. If they're average, it actually doesn't do anything. It's fine. It's actually okay. But if it's bad, it might actually disincentivize degens to want to buy in. And the team works the same way. If they're an average team, it's sweet. And if it's a great team, that also helps the meme. You know, for example, if you have a well-known person helping build the project and it's publicly known at that point, people are going to feel more comfortable buying it or want to buy it versus a team that's not doxed, aka they're not known, they're not publicly known out there, or, you know, they have pretty much a history of being known fraudsters or scammers. That's actually bad, and that will definitely impact whether I buy the project or not. So let's break all of this down in more depth. Let's start off with the narrative. And guys, I want to point out, before we get the real mean potatoes kicked off here, please listen to this. Whether you actually listen to this and think to yourself, hey, I'm going to go and apply it now, or maybe I'm going to go buy his course and look into this even deeper, or maybe you just go, back of my mind, there will be a point in time over the next 2 years where you think to yourself, that video, he said this that I remembered, and that is actually going to make me want to or not want to buy the project. Now, of course, none of this is ever financial advice, but you critically thinking about that and having that aha moment at one point in the future could make a massive difference in you making a lot of money or saving a lot of money even. So listen up, pay attention. Okay, narrative is crucial. Again, if there's two things you're going to do in crypto, it's the narrative and the meme. So think of this like a huge magnet attracting every investor into a particular group or a niche category area, whatever people want to really call it, of crypto. Okay, so people often call this a season. Again, I call this a narrative. So for example, you might have heard the term, hey, it's Oracle season, or it's gaming season, or it's layer 1 season. And you pretty well will hear this sometime in the next 2 years. There has to be a reason why people are interested in an altcoin to begin with. You know, there has to be a reason why they want to buy it. And that will usually come from its narrative being in season. That's why I recently made a video on how important this really is. Maybe a week ago now, I made this video over here, and I pretty much got rid of some of the long-lasting projects in my portfolio. Fantastic projects, but projects that are focused on enterprise adoption and aren't in great narratives for this particular bull run. That's how dedicated I am to this method. Now, there's two types of narratives in this case. There is primary narratives, okay? So what projects are mainly known for, predominantly known for right now and in 2025. So for example, and the reason why I say 2025 is because take Chainlink for an example. You know, 12 months ago, Chainlink was only known as an Oracle. That was it. But of course, the last 6 months, it had a recent upgrade, which now everyone knows it as not just an Oracle, but also interoperability as well, connects different networks together. But, you know, if that hadn't been out yet and that was proposed on the roadmap as an upgrade, let's just say at the end of this year, you could pretty well say a primary narrative will be at some point interoperability, right? Oracle and interoperability. But of course, you have to kind of forecast the next 2 years. Is Hedera, for example, going to be known for being an Oracle, even though it might have an Oracle service spinning up, which it doesn't, mind you? Then ask yourself, is that going to be accessible in the next 2 years? If not, don't worry about it. It's likely a sub-narrative, which is something that the project's not immediately known for. And in this case, the primary narrative is all you really want to look at, because the primary narrative is when we have that massive blow-off moment over here. Sub-narratives will help, you know, if in this case, this is ADA, right? This pump of all other layer 1 projects. But if, you know, ADA at the time was well known as well for, let's say, DeFi, it wouldn't be, but let's say it was known for DeFi, that might help. If the DeFi pumped over here, that might help it pump as well. But importantly, if it's a sub-narrative, it won't have this massive moment. And as we'll see at the very end of the video, you can pretty well gauge, roughly speaking, if the project is going to hit a new all-time high based on whether it's had its primary narrative or not, which is very easy to check and assess. So here is a really good example of what I'm talking about. Chainlink, which was in the last bull run, again, Bitcoin overlaid here in orange. Whatever project I'm going to talk about here in a moment is always going to be in blue. And you can see that it pumped irregularly, not just towards Bitcoin's top, about 8 months difference from Bitcoin, but it pumped at a different time as well to something like Hedera or other layer 1 projects, which pumped over here pretty well in line with Bitcoin. Like Compound over here for DeFi, these guys pumped in this greenish color even earlier than oracles. And of course, Quant, which is focused on interoperability, these guys pumped kind of in the middle, but still before Bitcoin's all-time high. And of course, gaming, these all pumped the latest, even after Bitcoin. So the market was crashing, everything was looking grim for most projects, and yet all gaming hit their highs. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Kyron, these are only, 5 projects, one from each narrative? Well, I've got many videos on the channel explaining and showing to you. I'm lining all of these up, and they do sync up pretty well the same. Again, sometimes you'll have like HBAR over here pumping, having actually its all-time high slightly more than this point over here, and that's usually due to a sub-narrative playing off or some other interest in the project happening at the time. Again, popularity like a news or announcements update. So that basically covers it. Now, here's the narratives that I've broken down in terms of their potential demand or their potential demand in 2025, should I really say. And this is important because this is definitely subjective. This is my personal opinion, but I'm basing this on how much demand these areas, these narratives have basically had over the last 4 or 5 months since the bull run really technically started to kick off in about October of last year. And we can see, again, interoperability, gaming, AI, DPIN, modularity, all these ranked at 10. We have some 9s and some 8s, but personally, I'm aiming for at least an 8 to a 10 out of 10, and you'll find you'll definitely won't fill up on your projects in this. You'll definitely hit that max 15 altcoin threshold. You can even fill up to about 30 or 40 altcoins in just these narratives because, as I mentioned over here, I personally am looking to double or triple up on each of these, meaning that I'm looking to buy altcoins that hits multiple of these narratives. So I might have 1, 2, 3 projects that hit interoperability as a primary narrative. I want to have, maybe 2 here, 3 here, 2 here, 2 here, but ideally at least 2 to 3 times. Now, some of these like layer 2s I've only hit once, but mostly inside the top 9 and 10s, I'm looking to hit, again, many projects hitting multiple of these. And that ultimately means my portfolio will grow together in unison rather than having a spike on a random day because one project and one random narrative pumped and then the rest stayed down and chops and change. I want them all to kind of build up and grow together. And then, of course, maybe even spike together. Just make my life so much easier. And that's as simple as it really is. Now, the bottom ones as well, they're fine to buy into, but they're going to limit you to really looking for the cream of the crop. For example, you might only really have one like decentralized social project pump because there isn't that intrinsic amount of demand that wants to come into this area for the bull run. That means that when that does happen, when there is that moment of decentralized socials really popping off, you might have one decentralized social project really taking up the market share over the others, or even worse, it might even be dispersed evenly amongst all of them. Now, that's not to say that's going to happen exactly. You can see Web 2 Layer 1 is in here as well. So it does depend on the situation, but for the most part, again, in the most non-financial way, of course, if I was someone looking to get into crypto and to try to hit my multiple targets, I would be mainly focused around these 10, 9, and 8 ranking narratives. So as my example, you might have Susie over here with some money to spend in the bull run, and she says, hey, I'm going to buy oracles because all the oracles are pumping right now, and everyone's telling me buy oracles, buy oracles. And so what does she do? Well, very simply, she buys oracles, and oracle market expands and begins to grow at that point versus the rest of the market. And this is what happens. So let's now touch on the meme because that story is going to follow on here in a very important way in a second that'll help you visualize this. But the meme, again, is the most important thing. If you're going to get anything out of this, it is the meme. If there's one thing, you crypto veterans are like, oh, what a load of garbage. I'm stuck in my ways. I'm not going to listen to him. Well, the meme is something I want you to take away from this video, okay? It's the wow factor that separates an altcoin from its competitors. After the narrative attracts all of those people like Susie back over here to buy into oracles, degens like Susie have to know exactly where they're putting their money. There's no index for all those oracles. She has to put her money into one oracle project. So why would someone, for example, Susie, want to buy Pith over Chainlink, right? So it's things like unique aspects. What is that boom thing that separates itself from the competition? Is it easy to understand by a degen? And is it appealing to Web3 use cases? And what I mean by the last one there is, is it actually going to apply to Web3? People like to see decentralized scalability, tech, modularity being applied, and that's what we have to look for, right? Web3 cases, that's what degens seem to love, and that's what I've been noticing here. So, memes as funny things on the internet, right? That's what a meme is, right? It's something that you can relate to, that's funny, that you want to send to your friends. Well, in this case, that exact breakdown and I guess synopsis of what a meme is applies to a cryptocurrency as well. It's got to have a great meme, but it can't be something lackluster, okay? It has to be a great meme. You also have to have an idea, if possible, on the standards in that narrative. For example, back over here with Susie and Oracles, right? You're only going to know if something is a wow factor or unique about Pyth over Chainlink if you have some degree of knowledge of that narrative, okay, of its competitors or the industry, which is why I told you all a few moments ago to look towards things you have a natural interest in and not just buy crap from influencers. And lastly, does it make you say, wow? There's often times in a few different projects that I research, you guys give me as a suggestion. I hadn't researched them before. And I think to myself, after reading a few things, verifying if it's true, I go, wow, I didn't know that about this project. That's amazing. And instantly piques my interest because it's the meme. Now, like I said, has to be easily understood by the degen. It can't be some mathematical, complicated thing. And this actually plays part into why having a clean website is very important as well, because that's the target market, in this case, the degens. But also, is it able to be spread? Are they going to understand and want to tell their friends about it? Which usually comes from just them being able to grasp. So we have Susie over here. Yes, I know Susie looks a bit different from the previous slide, but let's just pretend it's Susie, right? So back over here, she's looked to invest in the Oracle sector, and a few different projects have popped up, and it's got Susie thinking, hang on, which one do I buy? And so if we actually come to CoinMarketCap and click the categories section over here, and of course we are looking at oracles in this case, so Susie's probably controlled F, Oracle, and she's clicked in here, and she's thinking to herself, right, so Chainlink, Pyth, Yuma, Teller, API3 band, everyone's talking about oracles right now, but what do I buy? Okay, again, it's the meme. If she does a little bit of research, and keep in mind it's a degen we're talking about here, right? They're going to be looking at the very homepage of the website. They're going to be looking at some basic stuff, maybe even look up some quick YouTube videos as DYOR. That's all they're going to really do. Okay, so what is that meme? And this is important because I'm going to say this right now. Shots fired, I understand, but most influencers are degens themselves, okay? And they're only going to look into the basic stuff as well and watch other YouTube videos on these projects and then just tell you what they learned themselves 2 minutes ago, okay? So it only has to really be, I guess, something understood at face value from the website. Now, that is something that you guys might think to yourself, well, I'm going to have to know a bit about crypto. No, not really. Again, what is that wow factor? Just all you have to find. It doesn't take you that long, okay? Crypto is daunting, but just do a little bit of research into the standards and you'll be fine. That's all you have to do. So after Susie doing all her research herself, she decides to buy Pyth Network because that just stands out the most to her. So all in all, right, the sort of analogy I always use is if you had a lineup of 10 people, let's just say, 9 were pink, black, white, whatever, and 1 was green, which of these stands out to you the most, right? Which of these guys are you going to instantly want to target first? Now, you may not want to buy that target. You might just want to interrogate him. You might not want to accuse him, send it to him and everything right there. Okay, so the same for the projects, but you're going to want to research that straight away. Now, this also plays into a few other aspects like the socials, because again, as a degen, you're doing the least amount of work as possible. You're doing things like, again, going to the CoinMarketCap stats, looking up the first few videos on YouTube. That might even be part of your own strategy here. Going to the website. Is the website clean and easily understandable? Again, remember, people aren't that dumb. People understand if something looks kind of suspicious. I can't speak for everyone. There's a lot of people out there that buy some absolute garbage. They're going to also check the Twitter. They're also going to check the Telegram as well. And we're going to circle back to this later on in the video in terms of how you can research the Twitter and interactions, because a lot of these new projects have a crazy amount of followers and even actual interactions, but in reality, it's all botted or it's all done through airdrop, so it's superficial. But again, this is all face value. Check the amount of people, join their Telegram and join their Discord for God's sake, and just see how it works. I've saved myself money before looking into a few projects and realizing the community is just bots saying very basic things in the chat. And then when you challenge that, the moderator bans you, and that's an instant no-go. That's get out, because they're being told by a higher up to do that. So that is basically the meme. Thirdly is the popularity. Again, this is just something that might make you interested, or someone, aka DGen, interested in that project at a given time. Why would it be popular? Okay, so in this case, popularity is just a booster. Similar to how the narrative itself is that booster, it's the point in time in which the project should have its all-time high. Popularity acts as that sort of peak as well, which might give you a few different options. We'll have a look at these in a second, but mainly just pretty much allows for lower highs, higher lows to be made. It allows the project to just have more interest in general. So popularity helps boost the project's popularity in the market. This can help bring in previously unaware buyers, thus creating, as I said, higher lows. It also acts as that secondary boost. It's not as powerful as the narrative pump, but it also allows for 1, a chance to take profits or exit if all things look grim. 2, strengthen the floor. 2, gain the strength and increase the floor price so that it can continue to grow. And 3, observation of market interest. We can actually use this in the past to see how the market has reacted from previous popularity events. We'll look at some of these events here in a second, things like the announcements and remember events, to see, hey, did the project pump, or was this amazing news just nullified? Did it do nothing? And if it nullified, well, that might be an indication the project is just not where it needs to be to buy. Again, all we're looking for here is mass exposure to the market, so degens can come in. And if we have a proven track history of the project having these massive upgrades or events and not much happening, that's a bad sign. So we're going to look into a few different things. Daily interactions averaged on the year, which will help us look at things again like growth reaction to previous news, which mainly focuses on something called market dominance on the day. So we're going to basically see if, again, the market went, oh my God, this project's amazing, and if it shot up in price. Also, evangelist numbers. So the size of the Discord and Telegram and frequent tweeters. These guys act as a constant free marketing campaign, which is never thought of. Evangelists are people that are solely and wholly committed to a project. Now, I've got about 3 different communities consistently basically spamming the crap out of me on Twitter every post I get. Hey, check this project out. And it's annoying, but ultimately those are the evangelists bringing in people, maybe even influencers, to talk about their projects. You don't have to pay for marketing sometimes, guys, right? So here's the 3 things. Number 1, remember events. Number 2, feature announcements. And number 3, marketing. So briefly, roadmap events are things like finding events that are substantial to the mass market, not just the people who like the project. Ensure the event is going to be easily understood by the masses. So it is a very easy thing for you as a, evangelist yourself, or someone who's a maxi in a project who just loves the project, to see an upgrade and think, oh my God, they're upgrading the interface on the DApp. This is amazing. That's not amazing. That is actually not even interesting at all. Think about it in the lens of a regular person or a degen that doesn't know about your project. What is going to get them interested in wanting to buy it as a roadmap event? Typically, that's big events, mainnet upgrade. That's things like upgrading the scalability, massive bridge upgrades. We'll see in a second, partnerships will also help this. Sometimes they forecast partnerships or forecast an integration. It's also things like decentralizing the network, things that are big, that attract people. Number 2 is future announcements. We have to play a bit of a oracle game in this case, kind of forecasting the future. So what are the chances the project will have a great future announcements? Again, the next 2 years here. Base the probability of this happening on the last 2 to 3 years of their partnerships and connections. So it's a risk to reward we have to play, which is how I like to do crypto anyway. Which is, okay, over the last 2 years in the bear market, for example, Hedera has had partnerships with XYZ company. They've been announced and listed on these different exchanges. They still have room to grow because they haven't listed on Binance or Coinbase, hypothetically speaking here. They've also had all these massive announcements with smaller companies in this general narrative, like AI, for example. Something is brewing, and you kind of have to piece this together like a little puzzle. Just simple Google search, Hedera news, Hedera announcements 2023. I would kind of go broad scope with that and look towards 2023. You don't want new stuff all the time. old stuff will help you again paint that picture for the future. And what you do in that case is you say, okay, projects are businesses first. Their intention is to launch at the time right before or in the bull run to gain mass exposure. They're designed to release things at the bull run because they know that's when mass money will come in. I hate to break it to you, but they're all trying to make money off you. So they're all businesses, guys. And so we can kind of, again, forecast at least some of their best news or news in general to happen in the bull run based on the last few years. And lastly, marketing. Is this company good at marketing? Do they have a strong community in Discord, Telegram, Twitter? And importantly, is there engagement? Now, you guys have to understand positive news, so anything that happens at all is always perpetuated, meaning it's always pushed forward forever by a strong community. Right? So year-on-year social growth is what we're going to have a look at. Now, take a look at Pith. Pith is an oracle, like I explained before, but these guys are absolutely kings at marketing, and all the buzz around the project launching has created this, again, these higher lows formed on the project, and has just pretty much allowed it to continue to grow. Their engagement, 89,000 views here on their Twitter for this post, 755 likes because of a tier 1 listing on Binance. They have pretty well consistently, this 1 hour ago, just an announcement on how many price updates they have, 300 likes in an hour, which is even insane for a project with 1 million followers in this market right now. Just overall, these high engagement and also high views. So this is a very good sign to see. Now, you do want to jump into the comments and have a look if they are bots. Click into a few accounts. I know, it sounds kind of stupid, but it really makes a massive difference in a market, again, really built on degen behavior. If they're making their whole, face, their storefront basically built upon, crappy foundations, aka it's just all built on bots, there's going to be actually no demand when a really big announcement comes out and you're over here maybe buying that announcement or wanting to sell on it and nothing happens. Maybe it even tanks because of it. So we have to dive into whether actually people are using it. A great website is Luna Crush. I've got a subscription to these guys. I think it's pretty cheap right now, actually. And we can begin to have a look at a few metrics, like as you can see here, their interactions. This is Stellar XLM. Again, make sure it's the 6-month or the 12-month time frame. We want to spread this time frame out ideally over the longest span we possibly can, but this is interactions every single day. And then we'll find the average. Roughly speaking, find the average anyway. For XLM, I'd probably say the average is sitting about 450,000 interactions per day. And this will also tell you where these interactions are coming from. But just keep in mind, whether it's interactions from YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, it's all combined in here for you. And interactions doesn't mean people buying the projects. Interactions can also be superficial as well, but you can kind of use this to go back in time and have a look. Okay, so on the 13th of September last year, 2023, why was there a massive spike in interest in XLM? And have a look at these massive spikes and see if you can find the reason why they pumped. Over here, more recently, yesterday actually, XLM might have pumped up in pretty much interest because it had this announcement that basically built on Soroban, built on its smart contract platform, and this got a fair amount of views on their Twitter, and of course you have to consider all the Reddit and YouTube posts and videos being made as well. So this was one of the reasons, and you can kind of go, okay, it wasn't bad news, which was good, wasn't good news. How did the market react? Well, of course, then you can come over here to something like their, coin market cap, for example, and just have a look. Did the price pump because of it? Did it pump yesterday? Well, not really. It didn't. So again, those interactions were all built on just buzz and news, not actual positive buy pressure. In the same regard, Luna Crush is great because if I use Hedera as an example again, you can very quickly see who their top creators are. If there is a people building organic content around it, so you can see some of the creators over here, you can click into top creators and you can have a look. So Mason, Crypto Hulk, AJ, Max Walker, Hedera themselves, I'm even in the mix here. So you can see what platform they're from as well, and just see the interactions and where they're kind of coming from. Is it organic? And just do a bit more research, right? Dive into, if it's a smaller cap project, for example, it's obviously not going to be Crypto Mason or one of us making videos or tweets about it. So have a look at who these creators are. If they're a bot account, if they're literally just spamming, news and other bots are reacting to that news, that leads you down a path of something weird is happening here. You don't want to get yourself caught up in anything fishy or weird. If we chop back over to XLM again, I mentioned to you moments ago how we can kind of use all these announcements that happen in the project, even like I said with interactions, and just go back in time to see how the project reacted to good or bad news, particularly good news. We want to see if there's people wanting to buy the project still and how it reacts to that sort of quality of news. And so for XLM again, or any project, you can use interactions. I wouldn't bank on it because interactions is just general buzz. What we're going to actually be able to tell here is based on the actual price going up, or of course, what I would kind of recommend you guys do is market dominance, because market dominance says to us, if the project spikes like XLM did over here, this tells us that XLM's price or market cap was exceeding the general market, right? So if a project's market dominance gains or goes up like we can see here, that means, again, it's beating the rest of the market, because the rest of the market works on a global market cap, might be, $1 trillion. And if XLM shoots up to, as you can see, 0.39%, that means its market cap is 0.39% of the global market. And so what we can kind of do is backtrack. So, TradingView is a great website for this. You can just type in the project, right? It might be BTC, for example. And if you put .d, it's going to give you Bitcoin's dominance. This is all free, by the way. Some projects won't work. If we try Near Protocol, I think these guys work. And yep, Near market cap dominance. But like if I go Flux, for example, these guys might not have it, so they don't, okay? So you kind of want to, if you're stuck in the situation of, okay, so TradingView doesn't have my dominance, and I suggest you guys find a website with the chart on. What you can do is do it all manually. So you can come over here to XLM on CoinMarketCap, go back to the point in time in which it spiked. So over here it spiked, let's say on the 20th of July, and come back. Okay, that's the 20th of July as well. The market cap was 4.4 billion, as you can see on the right-hand corner there. And then come over to the global market cap on CoinMarketCap. All you have to do is click up here, click into that, and it'll bring it up to this page. Click back to 12 months or whatever it is for your time period, and then go to that time. So it was the 20th of July, 2023, which is round about here. And you'll mark that market cap. You can see 1.21 trillion, and you'll just quickly Google it. And the math always is the market cap of the project. So remember, XLM was 4.4 billion. Divided by the global market cap at that time, which was 1.21 trillion, that'll give you some weird low number, and then you multiply that by 100, and that's 0.36%. As you can see, 0.36% was very similar to the 0.4-ish% over here it was as well. So that's how you can kind of find it, and you can go to yourself, okay, so X project bumped up in price at that time. What was the actual news? What caused XLM or my project to pump so viciously versus the whole market? And in this case, it was because it was around the same time XRP partially won their lawsuit with the SEC, and XLM, as you can see here, pumped up as a result as well. So you can kind of go back and forth, and I would suggest doing this with all those kind of important points along the timeline in pretty much the last bear market. So as you can see, this big pump over here really spoke out to me, and a few other points in time will as well. Don't go back really probably into the last bear market. You might get some pretty warped results because it was a different market back then. A lot more projects are around right now. So finding things like the roadmap, it's fairly simple. You just Google, like in this case, Mina Protocol roadmap or Stellar XLM roadmap, and you might have to do some clicking around. Mina's got a very nice, easy one, which is why I bring it up quite a lot. First link will bring you to this page here. You click Open Interactive Roadmap. You got to love when these are interactive. And you can zoom in and have a look at the announcements. Now, luckily for us, Mina has a critical milestone here. So we know all the ones in this like pinkish color are critical milestones. However, they might be critical for the project, but not for the degens. So in this case, we do have to have a look and just peek into, first of all, whether it's going to be an important thing for the degens, but whether it's going to be finished on time in the next 12 to 24 months. There's no use to us if it's planned for the next 5 years. Or even towards the end of 2025. A lot of these projects never finish on time. Most of them finish after time, okay? And we can point some important things out. Modular off-chain storage is quite exciting, but won't really have a massive pump. ZK apps is going to be massive because that means they're bringing the ability for people to make applications on Mina, finally. These are pretty big as well, but they might come too late in time. Instant finality is going to be huge, and infinite horizontal scaling. So both quick transactions in both ways, right? They can happen fast and they settle fast. So these are some two big upgrades. So I would mark those down. There's no time frame here. Just keep in touch with your projects in that 5 to 10 minutes of research per day. Maybe you check back in the roadmaps once a week for each of your projects, but make sure you definitely do that, because like Near Protocol, there's a massive upgrade happening end of this year, which will bring in those degens, and that means you can prepare for it. Let's talk about tokenomics now, which is token economics. Basically, what happens with the token, why is it used, and what are the sort of economic details behind its intention, its purpose, right, in the network itself. And this is important, but again, it feeds back into the meme. If it's got a great tokenomics, it's going to help the meme, as I mentioned over here. If it's average to great, that's fine. It's really not too crazy. But if it's bad, if it's a bad unlock schedule, if they give too many tokens to the team too early on or to investors, or if there's a massive inflation rate, degens are going to be spooked. But we want to keep this simple though, because degens don't like research because it can be very complicated. And so we don't have to dive too deep into really complicated things here. We just have to look under the surface and find pretty much things that are just classified as bad. That's all it really is. Anything average, again, is fine, just for the bad things. So distribution, vesting, and inflation / the burn rate are really the 4 things we have to focus on. Let me take you very briefly here through 3 examples, because I know a few of you have suggested I make videos on this individually. Let me know down below if you still want a dedicated video towards this, because that might be a 20-minute video itself. But just like we did before with how we look at the roadmap, to find these things, it's kind of a bit of a dancing, tricky game. There's a few different things you can search. You can search up something like Mina Protocol tokenomics. That usually works for most projects. Some projects won't have anything that comes up. So you might have to try Mina Protocol token economics, or Mina Protocol distribution, or token distribution, or token vesting, or inflation. Searching sometimes these things individually will bring up a page like we can see with Mina here that is speaking about everything, right? So Mina, token distribution, and supply. Now, again, this might take a while to read into, but again, we're looking for those 4 things. So we'll have some beautiful charts like this. And in the same case as Near Protocol, we can see here, these projects are like 2 of the best in the space of being transparent and very open, and I guess making a very nice visual aid for us to have a look at these different things. As you can see, nice color coded here, and it's all in black and white. There's no research elsewhere you have to do. And we can see Mina Protocol. What you want to kind of do is come down to where it's color coded. Now, this chart over here, if you're looking at this, just tells the same story, but a bit differently. It incorporates what's called the total supply. So it incorporates the tokens that were created, but still locked up when the token first launched, which is called token generation event. And this, the rest of this dotted line just takes into consideration inflation, which is why this purple line eventually catches up as the circulating supply. But if we come and have a look at the breakdown, this is color-coded based on, if we come down here a bit more, the distribution. Okay, so it gives us a visual aid, which is fantastic. Now, if we come back here, the dotted line, as you can see, block rewards, that's inflation. So that tells me straight away there's going to be inflation on Mina, which, by the way, is healthy. We'll talk about different rates in a second. And the different colors, again, we're really looking for what's called third parties here. So you can't really look at the vesting schedule like this immediately and tell if the project's got a good vesting schedule. You have to kind of come down and have a look as well with the distribution and who these tokens are basically going to. And if you look at this and go, okay, well, there's too many tokens going to, again, third parties, which are basically any entity like the team, like investors, like even the community rounds, for example, advisors, anyone that is a single person that can sell their tokens without making anything public or without going through large processes, okay? So again, backers are a big one here because these guys are like us looking to make money, but on a whole bigger scale. These guys have access to their tokens so much cheaper than what we do. And so there's a few different charts like Mina Protocol has here. Again, these guys just go above and beyond with telling you more information. The main chart we're looking at here is the 1 billion token chart. This is the initial distribution chart, which will tell us, bang, this is basically initially how things are distributed straight away. This one down here looks a bit different because this one takes into consideration what that chart might look like in 4 years' time post-genesis, meaning post-creation, post-start of the network, which takes into consideration the block rewards, okay? So this will tell you about inflation and what the inflation will actually do to the percentage in the network, which is amazing. This really is great, but we don't need it right now at least. So we're mainly looking at this, having a look at those third parties, okay? And the third parties are what these degens are going to be looking at as well. Core contributors is one, backers is the other. So immediately, that's like, what, 50-something%, or rather 44 point something percent going to investors. We also have O1 Labs endowment, right? So you might think to yourself, what does that mean? Well, likely on any good project, they will have the breakdown of all these different entities here, right? They will tell you community sale, right? They will tell you project grants, what they are actually used for, and what that particular entity actually is. Okay, so you can read into that. Of course, I'm not going to do it for this purpose. That essentially is the O1 Labs endowment is for the company that created and developed Mina protocol. So that's fine. That's basically the team, and the foundation endowment are the team dedicated towards growing the network. And the community over here, you'll have to have a look, because if that community is given to airdrop stakers or airdrop users, that's bad. That's very, very bad. But if it's, towards other initiatives for the community, that's fine, which it is. So it's fine. So really what we're looking at here is basically 4 entities, these 4 over here, pretty well constituting as third parties. I would probably say Mina Foundation is probably a non-negotiable. That's probably fine. But O1 Labs, backers, and core contributors, these are the ones that are likely going to sell their tokens to make a profit. These guys will likely do things net positive for the ecosystem. So I would mark that percentage down. Now, in terms of what is a good percentage for third parties, I would say anything more than 55% is probably a little bit scary. 60% can be okay, depending on how that distribution works. There's 1,000 different ways we can look at this, but generally speaking, 55 to 60% is the, okay, any more than this and we're getting a bit scary here. Now, in terms of the inflation, Mina has a nice inflation rate as well. Tells you the months from launch and how it's a diminishing inflation rate, which is great. Solana has the same sort of model as well. A few other projects do too. And you can see basically the percentage we're looking at here is 7%. Now, this means nothing. I've just proven why inflation really isn't a bad thing on the channel many times. But again, put your glasses on in the eyes of a degen. What are the degens thinking? And I've got to say, as much as I think this is great, I think degens would agree. I'm not too confused or scared about that as well. Near Protocol, again, has a very similar sort of distribution vesting schedule where it's nice, evenly spelled out for us, and it has the color-coded vesting schedules as well. So you can see, is there any large, sharp unlocks? Degens hate the big, sharp unlocks, for example, and you can kind of see it all, again, broken down over here in terms of who these people are and why they were picked. It's important you read this, by the way. Do not make assumptions, because, over here, backers for Near Protocol, they have pretty rigorous criteria or prerequisites for these backers. You have to be a specific type of person to have had the opportunity to invest in Near Protocol, which is part of the reasons why I'm so bullish in it. This will also tell you in black and white about the burn rate, inflation rate. So as you can see here, 5% of additional supply issued every single year. So that's the inflation rate, and 70% of every transaction is burned. Again, degens love this. You might have a project like Flux, for example, but they don't have any of that. They have a distribution chart over here. Because they're a proof of work network, they don't have any unlocked tokens over time, right? These both are proof of stake networks. Okay, they mined all their tokens at generation event and they release over time unlocked. But these guys, it's just pure inflation technically, right? All these tokens are being emitted. And so in this case, you have to kind of do some maths, right? Work out the block time, 2 minutes every single block, how many minutes in a day, or how many 2-minute intervals in a day, how many blocks are being created, what the block reward is now, and is it going to be reduced in the next 2 years? Work out how many new blocks are created, how many rewards are, and then tack that onto the current supply on CoinMarketCap. I know, you type in Flux over here and enter that, and whenever that number comes up at, you just tack it on to whatever the circulating supply here is. But that can be quite daunting or time-consuming, which is why on my price prediction sheet available in the private community down below, I've done all this for you on 100+ projects. In terms of a bad inflation, I would say a bad inflation most definitely is an ongoing inflation rate of anything more than about 12%. However, that does change for some of these projects. Cosmos, they're changing things now, but traditionally Cosmos, Polkadot, for example, sometimes they change these things depending on the value locked in the network. So, of course, as people unstake, stake, do all that sort of stuff, it does change. Likewise, you also want to have a look at the rewards. Are people being rewarded for staking? Because you might have a 12% inflation rate, but staking might be 20%. Therefore, stakers get plus 8% on top of the inflation rate. So these are the sort of things you want to check in addition to the inflation rate. Again, do they have a burn? I think any burn rate is good. We can get into the economics of it all and say, well, if the burn rate's too high, it's bad and all that sort of stuff. But again, we're looking for the next 2 years here, not in perpetuity. the degens aren't too concerned with longevity of a project's economics. So any burn is good. Inflation over 12% without having a reasonable inflationary reward to make that make sense, basically, I'd probably be quite concerned. Now, some of you might be asking about utility. Utility isn't important at all. People always talk about the project have to have utility. Yes, it has to have utility, right? People need to know, okay, at least I can use a token for something. That's good, that's great. But in terms of the utility option making the project fantastic, it's a load of BS. It doesn't really matter. So general utility you'll find on some of these projects is governance, slashing. So if the node misbehaves, they get some of their stake they put in as insurance for the project to take off them if they did the wrong thing. That's what's called slashing. Transaction fees as well, using the network itself, and staking rewards. Again, anything more than that, any more utility is good, but not usually I've got to buy because of this sort of situation. It doesn't play into the meme at all. So lastly, let's talk about the team. This can be a very big topic, and in my course, I do touch on this quite a lot because a team can make or break a project depending on if they're a bad team. If they're a weak team, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. So let's talk more about this. So it's an additional boost. Again, it plays back into the meme. A good team can lead a project through anything, but just remember, we are selling in 18 months, not 10 years. A strong team plays into the meme because would you buy a new layer 1 project if Vitalik Buterin was the founder of a new project? For those who don't know Vitalik, he's the guy who created Ethereum. So if you knew that was happening, you'd be like, oh my God, I've got to buy this. It's going to be a great project. You wouldn't even bother with the research, right? You wouldn't even bother. So as a degen, that's an instant no-brainer, okay? That's why I can play back into the meme. If the team was, say, weak in terms of not really well known or not highly experienced or not very academic people at all, it doesn't typically hurt an altcoin too much. Now, experience can come in two ways. It can come with crypto knowledge and being in the industry for a long time. For example, I would consider myself quite experienced based on basically the amount of hours I've put into crypto, but in terms of having, actual knowledge on economics or any sort of degrees or certifications or previous job experience in, let's just say, the tech industry in Web 2, I've got none, right? I'm banking history, sure, that's something, but nothing in relation to that. So theoretically, if those are two different aspects of things, someone might have weak crypto knowledge or experience, they might have strong Web 2 in that area experience and vice versa, all right? So it doesn't typically hurt an altcoin though. What does hurt an altcoin is known fraudsters or undoxed team that might even be unaffiliated to the project. So I'll talk a bit more about this in a second here. So Google and LinkedIn are your friends. Don't trust Twitter. Twitter's a lot of BS. Spend time here using different search terms. Again, just like I said before with, trying to find the vesting or distribution schedule, which is sometimes daunting for some projects. You have to throw in different words. Same thing in this case. You want to search in different words. Lehman Bard, which is the founder of Hedera. Scammer. Lehman Bard, is he a fraud? These sort of things to play around a little bit here and have a look at, but ensure they in fact are working on the project in general. Like I said, are they even unaffiliated with the project itself? If you can't find anything about the person or them working on the project, I, at least personally, wouldn't buy it. Some of you guys are crazy. Some of you guys just buy because it's a cool project and maybe the founder is someone on Twitter who has 30,000 followers and, he's openly the follower, he even gets good engagement. I still wouldn't buy because the guy has nothing to lose. He's not doxed. He can still screw this up, make a few $1 million and get out of the market and no one's going to bat an eyelid. Think about it like that, all right? No one is your friend in this crypto space. I don't care how popular or famous they are if they aren't doxed. So come to things like, again, LinkedIn, Gilbert Verderin, the CEO of Quant. You can see for yourself. Scroll down, experience. We can clearly see he is the CEO and founder of Quant. Lehman Bard, for example, like I just mentioned before, he is the founder and CTO of Swirlds. He also founded, of course, the Hedera Hashgraph. You can see more about their experience here. You can see their education here, skills, and actually importantly, you can see people who have given them attestations or people who have given them sort of their recommendation. If I can come down to over here, recommendations for Gilbert and read some of these. Some of these people are in massive, areas and similar areas to what this person might be actually in. Gilbert, again, has had a long history in security and this sort of part of the world before coming into crypto and forming Quant. So again, some of these search terms might include, is Lehman Bard a scammer? And why you want to do some more research into this is because I can guarantee you, everyone you search is a scammer. It will come up something like this. a somewhat red flag for Hashgraph, be suspicious, is he a con artist? Like, you'll have people challenging this usually on Twitter or some blog or their own website saying, hey, I think this person's dodgy. It might be from 4 years ago, it might be from yesterday. So do more research and form your own thesis. But the reason why I tell you about LinkedIn and having a look at this as well, people can basically fake their LinkedIn profile too. I can say, hey, I've had, years of experience with IBM and I'm a, institutional grade banker, all that sort of stuff. So you want to verify some of this and actually find out, what are these companies and are they legit? For this guy over here, for Lehman, search up cyberspace research. Like, look into this, guys, because the last thing you want is for the project and everything I've just said to be fantastic. And then you I guess, ease out, you give up when it comes to the team because it sort of fits in place. And in reality, it's a scam and you get destroyed, and you get destroyed, mind you, right at the end of the bull run. So all this time of research and waiting has literally been for nothing, okay? You only have to do this once, really, all this stuff once, and then it's pretty well good for the time being. Again, you don't want to look on Twitter because Lehman Bard here, this guy is obviously a scammer. You can see by the follow account. Sometimes they bot their followers, by the way, and you can't tell. I've got a few guys impersonating me out there doing the same thing, and everything's the exact same as the actual Lehman Bard. But as you can see here, they're obviously fake, right? It's not Lehman Bard himself, and you might research this on Twitter and think to yourself, okay, so Lehman Bard is actually working with Hedera, when in reality, Lehman might have nothing to do with Hedera. There was actually a project recently I was looking at. I got told, hey, can you do a sponsorship of this video for your channel? And doing my due diligence, I had a look into the team, and they had a docs team. They were all available online, and I had a look. Damn, on the website, this says that this guy's got this experience at all these great places. And then I looked at their LinkedIn and searched that person up by name, scrolled down, because most of these big or well-known people that, kind of look towards their career and growth, they do typically have a LinkedIn. It's like kind of like a digital resume, right? So everyone can see the history and stuff, and they might want to hire them, for example. It's definitely a very good thing for that. And I looked at his experience, and he had nothing about that project listed on there. And I Googled it, no affiliation whatsoever. And I thought straight away, if this person was open and honest and valued what they were doing, maybe they actually were founding the project. Maybe they really were. But if they're not willing to put this in the public eye and own up to that, what does that tell you? It might be a scam, okay? It might definitely be a scam. So that being said, please look into the team. It's so damn important. And number 4, general research tips. There actually are charts, and there is things that you can look up to actually help validate some of this Pumpamentals research. So first of all, things like top 100 holders or the distribution, anything over 70% is concerning, but it might be at 70% and not be concerning because they might have some of these holders being exchanges or liquidity pools and things like that. So it might be fine. We'll have a look at an example here in a second. New versus active addresses both need to be growing, not plateauing. So they need to be going up and up and up and up, not kind of falling and going steady. And TVL. So TVL is for DeFi, right? Total value locked in the DeFi ecosystem. But what people tend to forget is DeFi and staked are two different things. Staked usually happens in the underlying infrastructure, like layer 3s, 2s, 1s, and 0s, where we have people staking in that to secure the network, okay? And there is also one more thing I want to point out. As you can see right here, whatever projects you're looking at, always try to look for the underlying infrastructure. So if you're someone looking for Chainlink to buy the Chainlink or Pyth or Uniswap or any dApp, right? You'll have a look. Is this particular project built on a layer 3? Okay, it's not. It's built on a layer 1 maybe. And you'll have a look into the layer 1 and research that. If that layer 1 is then also built on top of a layer 0, look at the layer 0 as the infrastructure. Because your project might sound cool and be highly mimetic, but the underlying ecosystem, right, where it's fundamentally being built, there might be no interest. And if there's no interest in that project, well, chances are it's not probably a good thing to buy because, again, why would you, for example, want to build a nice, new, brand new store? Let's just say you were someone building a cafe in a random town with 100 or 200 people, if that, in the middle of nowhere. That makes no sense. Like, you're literally limiting your customer growth when you could build that in a town or a city of 200,000 or 1 million people. So you get a lot more traffic and a lot more money. That's what you kind of have to do in this case. So a great website to search for top holders is a website called CoinCarp. Now, in this case, looking at Chainlink, And if we kind of scroll down here, you can click rich list. The rich list will bring you up, if it has it, some projects it obviously doesn't, it'll have your holders over here. And we can see top 100 holders, 70%. I would also check top 10 holders. Top 10 holders is a great way to go, okay, well, if the top 100 holders was 70%, but the top 10 holders was 60%, well, that's bloody concerning, right? But if it's kind of distributed, as you can see, 30%, it's basically 2.5 times difference between the top 10 and top 100 holders. That's probably okay. That is okay. And we can see top 100 holders, though, 71%. What did I say a second ago? 70% can be quite dangerous, which is why you need to go and have a look at the addresses as well and see who these people are, right? A lot of the exchanges or decentralized exchanges and liquidity pools will have that listed on there. We can see CoinCarp over here. If your project isn't on CoinCarp, go to the scan website it's known on. So for example, in this case, we're looking to buy Chainlink here, which of course we all know is built on Ethereum. And so we can use Etherscan. So if you're lost or don't know how to actually know which block explorer to search up to find your project, go to CoinMarketCap, search for your project, scroll down till you see the contracts bar over here, and just have a look at whatever this address says, right? So it's Ethereum, and you can also copy this code. You can also see a whole bunch of other chains it's connected to, but I would mainly focus on the main chain, whatever one is listed here first, and then go type in Ethereum Block Explorer to Google, and then paste in this code. Now, I've done that already. You just paste it in at the top here, click enter, and it would come up. Likewise, you can also type in Chainlink at the top or the ticker, and once it loads, you can tick that as well. Make sure you do click the token tracker here. It'll bring you up to the actual contract. It's a better interface. And we can see a few things, the total transfers, holders, some stats on the economics, that's all fine. But again, holders. And that's what you want to click. We can see the holders distributed here by all their names. You'll see some people, like the top holders, might have their actual names on there, right? We can see Crypto.com 6. We can see Robinhood. But if I was someone who was quite wealthy and could afford to buy like $56 million worth of Chainlink, and I named my address, No BS Crypto, you'd probably see that over here as well. And so we're just looking for these top holders. Why does Chainlink have 70% inside the top 100? Well, as you can see, apart from this address over here, which is likely to be associated with the team, we can pretty much come down and see most of these holders are exchanges or something to do with this supply, all right? So contracts relating to the actual project, nothing to do with holders or people that could dump. You can also have a look at the token holders chart to get a nice visual idea as well. So with that all being said, you can see that we come to Moonbeam as well. These guys are a different block explorer. We can see this is called Moonbeam Scan, and we're looking for unique addresses chart here, which will help us identify, is people buying it, right? Do we have an overall growth of new holders, and are there active holders as well? Now, we can see that's pretty well plateauing. It's going up, but what we're looking for is growth like this. If you see this on a project, daily increases being in the high tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, that's a really good sign to see. This chart, of course, aggregates that and plots it over the total addresses as well. So having a look, Moonbeam really isn't growing all that much. And why you want to look at this is mainly for the dying projects. Like, I could probably pass this off for Moonbeam as fine. Hey, we're still growing by 5,000 addresses a day. That's pretty incredible for a project and a few $100 million market cap, right? But for one that's in the high billions, or for one that's way out of proportion for what the size of the project is, that is a concerning sign to see there. Some projects won't have that total addresses chart. Sometimes you can search up on a Google and look at some great websites. Token Terminal is a great website as well. And so as you can see, Chainlink token holders are increasing as well, as far back as 12 months. So it went from about 650,000 in total up to about 716,000. So they gained quite a bit, considering the project already has 20 million holders. Now, like I said, TVL and also the amount staked is important. So TVL can be found by coming to DeFi Llama, and you can come over here to chains at the very, very top. DeFi Llama is, of course, anything to do with DeFi. And we can scroll down. We're going to use the example here of looking into ICP. ICP is ranked 48. We can see there's 5 projects in the DeFi ecosystem, and there's about $34 million in TVL. And you can actually click into ICP and have a look at the growth. We can see the growth actually is increasing. While it's small, you do want to see it increasing. If you see it dropping, that might be a worrying sign. Why is TVL leaving? Why are people getting out of the DeFi in that ecosystem, which might actually be as well related to projects getting out of the ecosystem, since it might be a massive drop-off. That tends to happen with some of these DeFi protocols. But we also need to come to see how much is staked. And as you can see, there's $3 billion worth of ICP staked in the network, which simply you can do by typing in ICP total staked amount or total stake in ICP. A lot of this is Google searches. You guys will get very familiar with just using the project name, insert what you're looking for. It's quite easy, really. And 3 billion total TVL, and we can go back over to ICP on CoinMarketCap, type in the project's name, and as you can see, it's about 250 million ICP tokens, and coming back up to the supply, that is over half of the current circulating supply. So about 60% or so of ICP is currently being staked, which is pretty damn good. I'd say anything more than 50% is amazing. 30 to 50% is probably okay. Any less than 30%, and you would think that there would be a reason why it's so low. Maybe there's no staking rewards. So that would always trigger an interest. But in terms of the degen, I think 50% is a great benchmark to intrigue them even more in the project. So all in all, guys, to put it very simply, those are the things that we're trying to look at to attract the degens, or what the degens would do themselves. Again, we're just trying to be one step ahead of the degen, and those are the sort of things they will check, because many YouTubers talk about it. That's some of the more basic things that they will get into as they research crypto. So those are the things I tend to look at least briefly, right? If you have more time, you can do some other things as well, and I might make a video in the future touching on those. Now, knowing when to exit is very important, and I made a video on this last night because built on this strategy, of course, we now know that narrative season, when the narratives happen, that's the biggest and most important point in time a project will pump. But what happens if things don't go to plan? Well, to even begin to know if things are on track or not, you have to have an exit plan. Okay, so I'm going to leave below a link to a video I made last night touching on this, and also a video touching on how to create exit plans for you all, because again, that's going to take an extra 45 minutes to touch on in this video. So either way, once you create an exit plan like I've done over here for ICP, this is actually a screenshot from the video I made a few weeks ago, and I'll again link that one down below. We can see we're trying to attain a certain weight over here. Weighted average is the price we're looking to get out on, so we have to sell some above, some below, and that's kind of how we track it with all this down here. So it looks more complicated than it really is. You can have a very, very simple exit plan. It's up to you. But this is kind of what I teach, and I do have, of course, a course touching on how to create exit plans as well. The link is, of course, the same as the one used for how to supercharge your research. Now, the things I touched on in the last night's video are triggers, right? What might happen to cause your project not to hit any of those prices? So we can see, hypothetically, this is ICP again. If ICP from here goes up and up and up, and at this point in time, there's probably going to be triggers that tells us, hey, ICP ain't going to hit the rest of our levels. We're not going to hit level 3 up to 10. So it might be worth selling, and you might be correct in most cases. So 3 things are narrative, timing, and Bitcoin. Narrative, weak or no narrative pump in late 2025. This goes back to the narrative, for example, where you might be in late 2025 and all of a sudden your project, looking back, and that narrative hasn't pumped yet, which tells you, unless things are looking quite shaky in the general market, like things might start toppling over, or we're reaching mass heightened hysteria, that, it's probably not going to happen, and it might be worth getting an exit. But I wouldn't really look to that individually itself, because you, again, like gaming, might have a pump after Bitcoin starts falling. What you have to do is pair it with a few other things as well. One is timing. This was also touched on in last night's video, but I'll be brief here. When I say timing, I'm talking about knowing what's happened in the past, the last 2 cycles, and plotting that to predict when the end of this cycle will happen. Now, I've done all that over here. I touched on in last night's video why the last 2 cycles from the halving Bitcoin to the top of the cycle was exactly 548 days to the day, by the way, apart, and how these bear markets have been very, very similar in length as well, giving us, all said and done, a rough time on when we can expect the market to crash. Now, I know this is probably pretty accurate, because unless something crazy, a massive black swan event happens, aka an event in which the market absolutely shits itself because there's some global war or something, we have seen that this data also told me, I made this back in about mid last year, that December of last year, a couple months ago, we would have things start to pick up. So I know the data, at least what I've researched, is at least somewhat accurate. Okay, I know it is somewhat accurate. You can kind of look at this and think to yourself, it's a market. Things don't always repeat, they rhyme. And I agree, but things are very close to repeating. It's a very similar rhyme. So that gives us around about, October, November, and December, aka quarter 4 of 2025 to really get out. So we can kind of take this information, come over here and plot this September to November, I believe, when the top will really be. And so, of course, if price over here for, let's just say, Bitcoin is at these levels and your project hasn't really had its narrative pump yet and it's starting to fall like this, again, it's probably late 2025, maybe even December, I would consider just selling, which would, you might miss that pump if you're in gaming or something like that, but it's better you make some profits than possibly gamble with that and lose them all. Another interesting topic I'm going to touch on here in a second is the Bitcoin 200-day moving average, which is this blue line over here. Every time price breaks beneath the 200-day moving average, if it is sustained, like we can see here, maybe I should zoom in a little bit more for you all. If it's sustained like it did down here, until it breaks above and holds above that and doesn't break beneath it, it's likely going to be in a bull trend. If we, like over here, saw in the last bear market that it fell beneath, which gives you a sign to, hey, maybe it's time to sell, and it cannot break and sustain above like it did here, that would be an immediate, okay, we likely need to sell, especially when it broke this and fell back down again. That's obviously telling us that things are not looking very good at all for Bitcoin and momentum is shifting more bearish. So, of course, that created the whole bear market. We can see over here it crossed again. We did close, we did hold above rather, and we did wick down, as you can see, but we did, again, come up and we did hit that line again and we did come back down, but now we are above. So to me, it looks like we are in a bullish uptrend and things are looking quite good. And so again, keep a whole eye on the 200-day moving average. You can do so by coming to Bitcoin's chart on TradingView, clicking indicators, typing in exponential and moving average exponential, and then clicking into that and then changing that to 200. And that'll give you the 200-day moving average. And just follow it. Again, if you are at the point in time where we're over here and we've broken beneath the 200-day moving average, we're at quarter 4 of 2025, your project has maybe even had its narrative pump, that would tell me to GTFO or get the F out. And lastly, Bitcoin's price struggles to reach $100,000 to $175,000. So why I say this is because, again, Bitcoin could hit $200,000, for example. But what you have to know is, I think $125,000 to $175,000 for Bitcoin is likely to be somewhere where Bitcoin maxes out and topples over. So again, you can kind of compare this and pair this rather, where we come to this point in time. If all four of these things kind of equal out around this time, that's an instant get the hell out, sort of signal. So if we come back to here, every $25,000 Bitcoin goes up from this point is injecting $500 billion into Bitcoin. Every $25,000 it goes up, which actually plays out for the market $1 trillion. So if we're like at that point in time, right, and it's $125,000 Bitcoin, it'll be about a $2.5 trillion market cap for Bitcoin. The global market will be at $5 trillion. Ask yourself, is it possible for us to move up any more in price, right? It doesn't have to move in 25,000 levels, but is it possible for that to happen? Are these targets influencers calling for, hey, Bitcoin's going to hit $150,000? Is that still possible? Well, if it's broke below and sustaining beneath the 200-day moving average, if we're in quarter 4 of 2025, if your altcoins or altcoin you're looking at has narrative pumped already gone, well, I would just not worry about it. And again, it's better safe than sorry. All in all, guys, the last thing you want is for price to not reach your goals and you're left holding the bag, not the back, holding the bag for another 4 years. So with that being said, thank you all so much for watching this video. I know it was definitely grueling to get through. It was hard, it was long, but it hopefully will give you all the tools necessary to go ahead and crush the bull run with all full force. So drop down below and let me know if you want to see an individual video on, things like the tokenomics or anything else you might want to learn more about. Again, I've done lots of videos on exit plans and that sort of thing as well. I've touched on this whole Pumpamentals idea many times in the past on the channel as well, but just not in this level of depth. Thanks so much, guys. Talk to you all soon. Take care. Bye.